There are reports of murders perpetrated by teenagers almost every week. Are these teenagers murderers or a reflection of a deeper societal problem?
Some of the kids, you can see that if there's no intervention, this one is going down the drain.
I believe that we somewhere, as black people especially, went wrong in raising our children.
The whole family now is starting to poverty again. Through one thug who's just smoking up and think of going to kill someone.
What drives a teenager to behave violently to a point of committing murder? South Africa is amongst the most violent countries in the world. According to the recent police crime report, 57 people are murdered here every day. A 2015 study by the Institute for Security Studies shows that youth between the ages of 10 and 19 account for over 12% of murder cases. In the past few months, several murders perpetrated by teenagers have made the headlines. As a journalist reporting on these stories, I get to see the impact that crimes like these have on affected families. When the call came to inform me that Stanley Serekele, a police constable and a good friend of 10 years, was murdered, I was numbed with grief. Stanley Pitso Serekele, a Metro Police constable, was attacked in his rented house in Mamelodi in Pretoria. He was stabbed 37 times in the chest and several times in one kidney. He died in a pool of blood. I am driving from my home in Johannesburg, traveling to Hamapalle village in Limpopo province, about 450 kilometers. I am going to bury a very good friend of mine who was murdered this past week. Today, Stanley is being laid to rest at Mapalle village in Limpopo, where he grew up. It is also the date of his and his wife's first wedding anniversary.
We are told that on Thursday evening, a young man, whom he used to mentor, went into Stanley's rented abode. We don't know what really happened between them, but the person attacked Stanley to the point where he took his life. In short, that's all the information we have regarding the death of our dear Stanley. So, to the Serekele family, let me officially inform you that Stanley Pitso Serekele is no more. He is gone.
Those who know Stanley describe him as having been very trusting and loving. A devout worshipper and entertainer, he dreamt of recording a gospel album. Stanley supported his wife, 5-month-old daughter, mother, and a brother.
My mom's unemployed. I'm also unemployed. Now meaning the whole family now is starting to poverty again. Through one thug who's just smoking up and think of going to kill someone. Do you think that is fair? We just want the police, our government to be serious when they say they're arresting people when they kill the police. They must just go strictly so. Those guys must not give in a bail.
To my dearly beloved husband, losing a husband as special as you have left my heart broken. No words can describe the pain that I feel. You have left my heart with so many questions. I deeply love you to the core of my being, Mr. P. Happy anniversary. Rest in peace, my love. Mochachaga. Till we meet again.
A teenager handed himself over to the police and confessed to killing the Tshwane Metro Police constable.
We want to see justice taking place. want to see the law being applied, and we're just hoping and praying that a maximum sentence be given to this young man. One thing is we are a forgiving family. At the same time, we are heartbroken by what happened. More especially that we heard that the boy was known to our brother and he was like a friend to him.
I raised Stanley and we were very close. His mother worked in Johannesburg, so I learned to raise a child by him. So his death has hurt me deeply because he was his family's breadwinner. He started working in 2015 and started building a house for his mother since she no longer works. She was a hawker in Johannesburg, and when she fell sick, she came back to stay here.
She describes the void that his death has created in the family.
His wife says she doesn't know where to begin picking up the pieces, especially with their 5-month-old daughter. She's hurting, particularly because of the manner in which he died. Had he fell sick, maybe she would be able to accept it. She was only told that her husband was killed. She didn't even get the opportunity to see his body at the scene.
Stanley believed that early intervention in the lives of adolescent males from troubled backgrounds is key to helping them find their way through life honestly and on the right side of the law. He came from a poor background and became a good role model for many troubled youth. He used to meet the youngsters he mentored. It is alleged that he was murdered by one of them. A young man turned himself over to the police after the murder. I wanted to understand why an adolescent would commit a crime like this. Neither the boy nor his family were available to talk to me.
Every speaker who spoke on the program showed so much concern over the amount of violence, particularly amongst teenagers. And while we were still here, we just received news that about 90 kilometers away from this place, another 18-year-old stabbed and killed his classmate. And we are going over there to find out and investigate what really transpired over there.
We are now in Malamulele in Limpopo. We have come to meet up with former policeman, Mr. Philemon Shileng. His 18-year-old nephew was stabbed to death by a fellow learner at the local Nkatini High School.
The teachers came to the house and told us that the boy was stabbed and injured at school. When we arrived at school, we found that he was indeed stabbed and had died. We took him to hospital, but he was certified dead on arrival. So the manner in which it happened has really caused us grief. Because we never thought such a horrible thing can happen within the schoolyard, because we had regarded school as a safe place for both learners and teachers.
As a retired police officer, he has dealt with teenagers who commit crimes. He says if they understood how a little error of judgment can destroy their lives, they would avoid a life of crime.
When a learner commits a crime like this one, even if he completes his studies, he will never be able to find a job unless he gets a presidential pardon after 10 years. I request all young people to stay away from anything that may lead them to getting a criminal record.
Within the same week, in Zerast in the Northwest Province, 24-year-old teacher Khadimang Mukolobate was also buried. He was stabbed and killed by a learner in full view of other learners.
we are really wounded. It's beyond description because he served as an icon in the family. He liked to lead, he liked to guide, he even wanted to teach his own father how to do a budget, a monthly budget.
This sad passing of this wonderful teacher is a rude awakening to us as an entire society, that somewhere we have missed it. We have a collective responsibility for our societies, for our respective communities, and that includes the manner in which we guide, mentor, and train our kids.
His death sent shockwaves across the country and left other teachers and learners reeling from the impact of his crime.
This scene was very tragic to all of us. It affected us negatively, so in our education, emotionally, and we just can't cope with this. Most of us, we're not familiar with the feeling.
But what drives a teenager to take a life? Many believe that this violence is a symptom of a deep societal problem.
It is about the society. We don't care about each other anymore. It's I can pass on the street somebody getting mobbed and I'll just take a video and post it on WhatsApp, but we don't care if the other person is feeling pain or not.
As Black, we believe that a child is not raised by one person. Like a whole community is wrong, actually supposed to be grooming that person. And if a person is acting on what the environment overall is feeding them. So I believe that we somewhere, as Black people especially, went wrong in raising our children. We put the blame, and I hear a lot of stories, people saying, no, the parents at home never did this. But the child is learning more things on the street than at home.
Psychologists say violent behavior has to do with how children are raised and what they are exposed to.
There could be many reasons why a teenager would commit such a big crime. One of the reasons is that most of the time teenagers are at a stage where they like to be seen as heroes in whatever area they are at within their peers. And sometimes they want to be accepted into their peers as heroes within the group. Sometimes because of problems that they experienced before they are at that age, probably that started pre-teenage years, when they were abused or they experienced very big crimes in their lives, and they carried that within themselves, and now at a later stage they can actually express their anger without fear.
The Department of Basic Education held a school safety summit in October last year to try and find ways to stop violence in schools. The Minister of Basic Education agrees that the violent behavior of teenagers is a reflection of a deeper societal problem, but considers them culpable.
I really don't want to be soft with them because at the end of the day, they rob people of something very important, which is life. So I find it difficult to say they're victims, but I know they would have encountered difficulties, but I don't want to justify that and say they're victims. I just think they're killers.
In the past, learners with behavioral problems were sent to reformatory schools.
Because the reformatories, it was after they've committed crime. And the gap is, before they commit crime, we don't have centers which help them not to get into trouble. The reformatories normally work after you've committed crime.
According to the Minister of Basic Education, most troublesome learners fall through the cracks because intervention occurs after they have committed a crime, which is often too late.
Some of the kids, you can see that if there's no intervention, this one is going down the drain, but there's no infrastructure for the ones who have not committed crime.
One such former learner is this 21-year-old juvenile prisoner. He is serving a sentence for murder at the Polokwane Correctional Services Center. Together with his friends, this prisoner started out by selling marijuana to fellow learners and robbing them of their belongings. This escalated into more serious crimes and then murder.
The school realized that I was corrupting other learners and disrupting them from attending classes. I used to sell marijuana from a sports field where I stayed from morning until afternoon, bunking all classes. I would just sit there in my uniform, but my family thought I was attending classes. The school started by suspending me and calling my guardian to tell them that I was selling weed and that some learners had lodged formal complaints about me, accusing me of forcefully taking their monies and so on. My friends would wait outside the school gate and rob learners of their cell phones and money. The school eventually kicked me out and I left school.
They were all arrested for housebreaking, but his case became more complicated. While awaiting his trial, he attacked and killed another prisoner in his cell, whom he suspected of raping his aunt.
I heard that my uncle's wife was raped by a certain man. I didn't know the man who raped her. But when he eventually got arrested, he was coincidentally brought to the same cell I was in. Later that evening, I started questioning the man about his rape case. He started describing the incident and mentioned the names of his victim. I discovered and confirmed that he was indeed describing my uncle's wife. I then told him that I had been searching for him for raping my aunt. I then started kicking and assaulting that man until he was unable to speak. His head was completely smashed and had an opening in the middle. So in the morning, the police came to count us and discovered that one of us was missing. They asked us about him and we told them that he was sleeping. They went in to check on him and found him sleeping. We had covered him with a blanket thinking he was dead. They called the ambulance to pick him up and took him to hospital.
He attributes his criminal behavior to the fact that his parents died while he was much younger, leaving him to the care of his grandmother, who could not afford to finance the lifestyle he desired.
My family could not afford to give me what I wanted. I started being troublesome when I was still a learner. I was arrested for robbery when I was still a juvenile, and I could not be locked up because of my age. I went to court under the custodian of my grandmother. Again, I committed a housebreaking offense, and the police started looking for me, but I would always evade arrest. The police searched for me for a while, but they could not find me. My offenses started piling up as we went on with theft and robbery, wreaking havoc everywhere.
Looking at the facts of his case, Dr. Nthabiseng Ramotwala explains why teenagers' behavior in some circumstances is extreme.
The crime life for him was beneficial. For as long as there's a benefit for doing certain things, one will continue doing it. There was no punishment for it. The only punishment he got was going to prison, and he can deal with that. And moreover, he even commits more crimes when he's in prison. So it actually validated him. It made sure that he feels even better. I wouldn't want to paint a gloomy picture and say he should go out and then he'll be killed, or there's nothing going out there for him. It may happen if he's got the determination. But the biggest issue is, did he learn from his experience? You said now that he is not remorseful. Does it mean he thinks he was justified to commit the crimes? And for as long as he feels justified, then he will go out there, get a job, and feel justified to do anything, to steal a printer, to steal whatever, because he thinks the boss is rich You know, he may give himself any other reason. So for as long as he thinks his actions were justified, then we need to be worried about whether he can be a good standing community member should he leave prison.
The correctional services agree and say there is a common denominator in juvenile offenders who are convicted for murder and other violent crimes.
One thing that you realized in young offenders, there's an element of peer pressure, there's an element of substance abuse, and also there's an element of, lack of parental support. Those are the corner pillars in terms of what actually leads those young offenders in terms of committing such crimes.
The juvenile prisoner says his time in prison has taught him to change his ways. He plans to start afresh when he is eventually released.
What I desire now is to get out of here and look for a job so that I marry a wife and build a family of my own, just like other men. I want to have children and be able to support them. I'm going to stay away from crime and build myself a family.
He is anxious of what to expect when he is eventually released from prison. Two of his close friends who continued with crime after they were released from prison were killed by angry community members.
My heart is sore that they were all killed, but they were all paying for all the crimes we committed. I also deeply regret everything we did because we were only misleading each other.
But how easy would it be for him to change his life when he returns to the same circumstances?
I have to stay away from crime and bad company. I'm going to attend church and search for a job so that I may start rebuilding my life. If I continue doing what I used to do with my friends, the community is simply going to kill me as well. I don't want to be killed at such a tender age because I still want to achieve a lot of things in my life.
The young prisoner and other teenagers who have killed might have another chance at life, but the likes of teacher Khadimang Mukolobate, Hloniphani Vukeya, and Constable Serekele, and many others who die by their hand, will never see their lifelong goals fulfilled. And while stakeholders continue to seek solutions to end violence perpetrated by teenagers, the families of the deceased have to endure a life without the support and care of their loved ones.